Hi there, and welcome to Unfiltered Solopreneur, the podcast where we share real, unvarnished stories of people who dared to break free from the corporate grind. I'm your host, Nikhil, and I'm passionate about helping solopreneurs like you turn their dreams into reality. What if playing it safe was actually the smartest move? In this episode, Adam Rawlings shares how building a solo business with a financial buffer, a clear plan, and none of the social media theatrics led to faster success than he ever expected. We talk about quiet discipline, flexible offers, and why treating your solo practice like a real job, not a fantasy, is the real secret to freedom. This one's all signal, no noise. Enjoy, and I will see you on the other side. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Unfiltered Solopreneur. I'm Nikhil Vaish, your host, founder and CEO of Boost Solo. My guest today went from teaching in a classroom to building global tech teams. He's a talent spotting ninja who places top performers faster than they can say hiring freeze, all while juggling fatherhood, solopreneurship, and a lifelong loyalty to Nottingham Forest. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nikhil. Pleasure to be here. I wouldn't quite call myself a ninja, but I'll take it. Thank you.
Well, today you're dressed like one, so maybe it will work. So so you've had a very interesting sort of twists and turns, right? So you've had a number of different chapters, I guess I'll put it that way. You've been a teacher, a recruiter, a startup co-founder. So could you take us back to the moment when you sort of knew it was time to leave the corporate startup world behind and go solo?
Yeah, sure. So my background's quite unique. So I started off as a high school teacher over here in the UK. And then decided around the age of 30 that I wanted to make more money, basically. And I had friends in sales, friends doing recruiting, and that led me on this path. So I worked in a firm for 4 or 5 years. I then met my business partner at that company, and we started our own business. And we did that for 6 years, and we scaled it, I think, to, at its peak, 20 employees. Great learning experience. But then for me, I think having children changed everything.
Right.
And my passion to build, my passion to grow diminished. And I realized there was more to life than chasing this growth journey and these dreams of exiting a business, and something else became more important to me. So about a year ago, I had a bit of an epiphany and kind of discovered this solopreneurship path, and I came across Justin Welsh on LinkedIn, some of the content he was putting out, and I realized there's a better way I can spend my life. Made the decision last summer to continue what I'm doing in recruitment, but do it as a one-person business. And I haven't looked back since. It's been great.
That's great. And so would you say Justin Welsh sort of was an inspiration, or just sort of the seed was there and he just sort of lit the spark, if you like?
I think when you start thinking about something new, you then you get confirmation bias, right? And
right.
Whether it's someone on your Twitter feed or LinkedIn or a friend of a friend who's doing something similar, and you start to see all these signs around you, right? And I think that was one piece of the jigsaw, amongst others, really. And I think there was things, mainly things pulling me towards this journey, because I enjoyed what I was doing. I had a great business and great relationship with my business partner, and there was little that I wanted to walk away from. But there was so much more I wanted, which was more of a lifestyle business. And I did actually, I think what I realized as well, that I thought I could probably make more money as well doing this. Once you remove all the overheads and create bigger margins, it's just a much more simple and profitable business model. That was the things that kind of really resonated with me.
And I can tell you'll have the best boss you'll ever have.
Not sure about that. but you do. I think that's one thing that I've learned on this journey is you have to be a boss to yourself. And actually, I'm not sure I read it, but I think, to treat yourself as an employee of your own business, hold yourself accountable in various ways. Otherwise, you can lack that discipline and you're not going to hit the goals that you need to and be successful.
True. But now it was interesting when we chatted, you said that you didn't just sort of blindly take the leap, right? I think you told your wife you want 12 months of, of income in the bank to make sure if anything goes sort of belly up, that there's a cushion and padding there. So was there ever a point when you thought maybe I should wait longer, or were you all in at that 12-month mark?
No, I think sometimes, again, once you have the idea, once you know something's right, you got your heart and your head right. That the head is saying, financially, can we do this? And the heart is saying, I want to do this straight away. You have to get the balance of those two things right. So I think that's the thing that I would pass on to anybody else is, you can back yourself. You can have this burning desire to do something. And I'm sure it'll be a success, but you also have to paint the picture of what's the worst that can happen, and make sure you have yourself covered, especially if you've got responsibilities like children. If you're in your 20s, you're single, it's a different game, right? But you get to a point in life where there's other things you have to take care of first.
Yeah, I've heard they can be pretty expensive. Children, that is. I don't have any, but
I've got two and a third on the way now as well. So
congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
that's great.
Expensive.
So you said something interesting to me about priority shifting, right? It was sort of like that was a part of the journey that sort of led you here. So now success to me looks very different when you work in the corporate world or when you're running sort of in a startup, like you were saying, exits, IPOs, unicorns. So how is your definition of success shifted? And or has your definition of success shifted? And if so, what does it look like today?
Yeah, I think good question. I think I'll give you the kind of the unapologetic answer, which is financial reward. That's something that that drives me as a person. And it's, again, you say children are expensive, but most of us are here to build a better future, and whether it's for ourselves, to retire early, for children. So success for me is there's a financial side to this that keeps me going, and the other side, again, it's more the flexibility and the freedom to do what I want when I want. Right now, I'm working ridiculously hard, crazy hours, but then there'll be a week or a few days here where I feel like, you know what, I'm all right here. I can do what I want. I can take a day off and take the kids out, whatever it is. And I think that for me is the true success, is just the freedom to do what I want when I want, and not worry about it.
Yeah, I know you could run out. That's what one of my favorite things is. I could run out to Sainsbury's. Obviously, I don't have one here, a Waitrose, but you could in the middle of your day, right? If you just needed something, you don't have to get anyone's permission to do that. Yeah.
It's just success. It's just fulfillment, right? It's just being happy. That's the most important thing. Is happiness. Great. Like I mentioned, money and things like that, but happiness is everything. So I think that is the true measure of success, right?
Yeah, and being able to spend time with the people you want to spend time with, right? So, yeah.
Time flies. So you see that very quickly. I was watching. I was at my parents' house at the weekend, and they had they pulled out an old family video from 1994. We had a family holiday to Florida, and it seems like yesterday, and it's just time goes too fast. So you get those little nudges sometimes that just remind you live in the moment, basically.
True. Well said. So now I know it's not been you're just sort of earlier on in your journey, but what expectations did you have in your head? I mean, when you started the business, and what has the reality been like?
Yeah, probably the bad thing to say this, but I thought it'd be harder. I've had a real, and it's everyone has a different journey, and I will not get complacent. But I've had a really strong start to my business. It's been really positive, and my expectations were to have a really tough first year. So I said to my wife, there'll be no holidays. That we're not, we need to just cut back a little bit and take it easy. But I think I've got to that point after a few months where I was like, I could see pipeline had built. I'm not starting this from scratch. I have connections in the space
Yep.
and everything else. I know my industry well, so I know how to build a pipeline of clients. So success came quite quickly, but never going to be complacent with that, because I've seen it before in our previous business. We had a tough year as well towards the end, and I know how quickly things can turn. So so far I'm ahead of my goals. Which obviously I'm really happy about, right? And I think that's it. I think as long as you have a plan and stick to it, and you remain disciplined, then you can stay on track with your expectations. There'll be surprises along the way, right? But I think that's the key thing. One thing that has surprised me actually is, again, as a positive thing, is people really want to work with solopreneurs. They want to work, because there's so many people doing this now, and they know the service will be better. They'll probably get a more cost-effective price, and it's win-win for everyone. So reception has been really positive. I've been reaching out to people. They like the story, they like the journey. When they ask about my business, they like hearing that personal side, and they want to work with me, which is great. So I think anyone that's thinking you need to have a brand behind you and all that, it's not true. You are the brand. Your story is the brand, and that's the reason people work with you. So yeah, it's been a pleasant surprise.
We'll come back and talk about that. But you said some interesting things that I want to touch on. One is that I've lost my train of thought. Sorry. So I think two things I want to talk about. One is do you think you could pinpoint some of the reasons for why you had such a strong start? I mean, obviously you had a foundation, so financial security was not a worry, because I think sometimes when people don't have that, comfort in their mind, they're more nervous and they come across, maybe they approach it differently. The second is, you mentioned you'd been doing this, so obviously you have the expertise, you have the skill set. And the third is maybe your network, right? So I'm just curious if you could sort of pinpoint the factors, not maybe what I said, but in your mind, what would you attribute it to, your strong start?
Yeah, I think it's obviously combining all those things.
Yeah.
But what brings it all together is really just the hard work. And the first 3 months of this business were the hardest I've ever worked in my life. And I think part of that is because I was driven by fear, because I have responsibilities. If I was doing this 20 years ago, I probably would have slacked off. But I've got pictures of my kids looking at me, and I owe it to them to be successful. So it really was, I know it's a little bit cliche, it's just down to hard work and executing on the plan, and just working like crazy until I got the results that I wanted. But you can do that and drive yourself mad. And actually, one thing I did do at the time, there's a great guy called Luke Doran who I met. I saw him on Instagram, and he's I'll give him a shout out here. He's like a life coach, would you call him? And I did this program with him. I met him, and I did this program where he helps men, specifically men, and it's to do with mental health, physical health, and wellness. And I came across him right at the same time, and I thought, right, that sounds like the perfect kind of thing to be doing as I start this business, so I don't get sucked into working so hard that I'm going to burn out. So I joined this program that he runs, and that just kept me on track with my fitness, which I've always been really good at, but just making sure that I'm doing all the right things to keep me sane in those early months. But it was the hard work and being disciplined with my plan, which was the key thing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I think I'm glad you said that too, because one of the things that surprises a lot of people when they hear this is a lot of people say, I'm working harder than I've ever worked before, right? And most people do not have that picture of solopreneurship. It's lying on a beach, sipping drinks and have your feet up. Now, like you said, we have flexibility and freedom, but you still got to put in the work to have that flexibility and freedom, right? It's not automatic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think back to the pleasant surprise, I thought those first 3 months, I thought that was going to be the whole year. And that's what I prepared my wife for, was this will be it for the next 12 months. Fortunately, those first 3 months really paid off, and then I could ease off and start enjoying things. So yeah, but I think, anyone that's thinking about doing this, whatever your industry is, especially if you have to bring on new clients regularly, then yeah, you've got to be prepared to put those hard yards in, especially at the start.
Yeah, and also to your point, when you have some time, take it, right? Don't.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, I think it reminds me a lot of actually going back to lockdown, right? And a lot of us, it was the first time working from home. I never used to work from home at all. But there's, everyone was saying, right, yeah, take regular breaks. And you're kind of getting told how to manage your life, but it's so important. And whether it's making sure that you get up first thing and you get dressed and have a shower rather than answered emails with your pajamas on, right? It's
Right.
treating this with structure and making sure it doesn't morph into your day-to-day life.
Yeah, and the self-discipline is, I think, one of the most important things that you have to cultivate or build, right? That's the muscle we're not necessarily born with, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So you touched on something else which is really interesting, which is of course music to my ears about brand, right? Which you are the brand. So let me ask you now in terms of, so you went from sort of being behind the scenes, if you like, building teams, putting yourself out there. So actually, what I mean is now you're putting yourself out there as the face of your own business. So has it been hard for you to sort of market yourself instead of a product or a company? How have you dealt with that?
Yeah, it's been, I think it's something that I recognized. And I think for years, actually, especially in recruiting, we've spent our lives on LinkedIn. And I think when I first started in this industry, I remember, we were told, get posting on LinkedIn, share things. And that was like 10 years ago. Finally, you've got to start embracing that. And I think that, I now set a schedule, make sure I'm posting regularly, and I've had inbound business from it. I'm like, wow, it actually works. Even when I might get 3 likes on a post, something will still happen. And it's like, I used to think it was vanity metrics. I thought you had to get hundreds of likes for actually something to happen, but just being present in people's feeds leads to something. And but yeah, it was tough to embrace that because I don't think it's not natural for me. I don't post. I have all the usual social media things, but I'm a scroller rather than a poster. I don't put stuff out there too much. But yeah, it's important. You got to listen to what people are doing, and you got to think what are you influenced by as well yourself. And I think, all right, that influenced me, so I need to be doing that as well. But I think it's a really big part of it. I don't put too much video out there. I'm not one of these people to be kind of filming myself and all that, but I'll try and post a few things each week on LinkedIn. That's my main part of my personal brand.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say, because one of the things, and I've spoken to a lot of people about this, solopreneurs too, is likes aren't necessarily translating into business, right? I know people who've had posts go viral and gotten not one piece of business out of it, right? And then I've had other people say, I got 3 likes and ended up something happening and I ended up getting a client, right? So to me, that is very much a vanity metric. It's much more about what you're saying, what you're offering, and like you said, are you showing up in the right feeds with your service offering, right? And
exactly,
yeah.
So, and the magic happens in your inbox. It's not in the comments below. The magic happens in your inbox. Oh, I saw your post. Can you help me with this? And it's great.
Yeah, but you have to be out there, like you said. It's just I'm like that too. I mean, I'm older than you, a different generation probably, but I'm like, I was not born with the soapbox or being comfortable on it. So, but it's the world we live in now. So recruiting is a pretty competitive and crowded space. You're competing not just with solopreneurs, but also agencies, in-house teams, and HR professionals. So, what's been your biggest aha moment in terms of sort of shaping your brand and making sure you stand out from the crowd?
Interesting. Yeah, I think what I realized actually as being a solo recruiter, I can be completely flexible with my offering. So going back to running a business and having multiple employees and a more traditional recruiting firm, it's go out, fill jobs, get paid for it, right? And it's quite simple. But now I have some clients who I'll have a client right now in particular who I spend a lot of my time with, where I'm like their contract internal recruiter, if you like. But then alongside that, I have clients who I'm doing the more traditional 20% fees with. And then I have another client who I work with who they don't have much budget for recruitment fees, but they need help. So with that person, what I do is I source candidates for them and introduce them, but then I stop there. I don't take them through the process and all that kind of stuff and manage the offer stage. It's just purely introductions. And, we agree a fee that works for me for doing that part of the work. So it's being really flexible and just there's a solution for everyone, especially when you start working in the startup space, and especially before the VC money hits. These guys need help, but they don't have the budget. And there's always a solution. So I think having that flexibility helps me stand out. But I think in recruiting, we're all offering the same service ultimately. We are all offering, I'll find you some candidates. So I think the best way in an industry like mine is it's your reputation is your USP. Okay, here's who I've helped. Go and speak to them. I'll introduce them to you, and you can take a reference on me. Here's companies I've helped. Here's the stats that I've done. But there's too many companies out there who just say, "Yeah, we're the best. We're specialists in our industry." Well, everyone's a specialist in their industry, right? So, in a competitive space like this, you have to just speak about facts and show your work that you've done, and that's the way to, in my opinion, the way to stand out.
And has that sort of evolved from when you started? Have you do you feel like you made any branding mistakes early on, and have you changed tags? Have you identified a niche? Talk a little bit about that.
I don't know actually. Well, my first branding mistake, actually, my company name has changed after a few weeks. So actually, I don't know why I picked it, but I was called Transcend GTM for go-to-market, for go-to-market talent. That's the main area I work in is sales and marketing roles. But the name didn't really mean anything. I just picked it randomly.
Right.
My business got registered under that name. I had the website built, all the domains bought. And I thought, why have I chosen that? So that's the first thing. I changed my name to Rev Hire. So Rev in terms of revenue, and obviously Hire is pretty obvious. And salespeople is the main role that I recruit for. The name actually makes sense now. But along the way, it's just been flexible. And I'm not sure longer term which way I want to go, because the kind of working as like a more internal partner is great. I love that, but it's probably not as lucrative. So at the moment, I'm doing a bit of both, which is great, because one is more is recurring revenue and it provides security. The other is lumpy, but it's far more exciting. At the moment, I've got the best of both worlds. I guess I'd like to be in a position longer term where I almost don't need the recurring revenue, and I can just enjoy getting the big lumpy fees, and then take a month off, and then do whatever, and then win some more business, do it again. I'm not there yet, so I'm not too sure which way that's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the journey, right? You sort of have those things you have to figure out, as long as you have a focus and sort of like the what you're offering. So what was it that made you change Transcend? You said was the original name?
Transcend, yes, yeah. There was someone I was chatting to. I met on LinkedIn, and he said, "Your name's rubbish." And I was like, "All right." And so many people, you ask for feedback, right? And so many people just want to tell you everything's great, and you can't beat getting some constructive feedback. And nobody had given that to me. And sometimes you just have the blinkers on, and you're not aware. And then this guy I met on LinkedIn, I don't even know him properly. We got chatting though, and he gave me some feedback, and I was like, "Do you know what? You're dead right." I changed it right away. But I do lots of email marketing, so I buy lots of domains to make sure that I don't ruin my reputation with my main domain. I bought about 20 domains under this original name that now no longer relevant, but it's for the long term. So you have to get these things right. And,
true, but that's the way to learn, right? I mean, because when you said Transcend, my first thought was you were offering like a meditation service. That was the first thing that came to mind, honestly. But again,
my business is the exact opposite of meditation.
Right. Although the founder can meditate a little bit once you put the people in place for him, right? Or her. But so it's interesting that, and again, I don't know, sorry, I'm having a bad day, obviously, like I'm losing my train of thought. Maybe because I don't do it so early usually. I don't know why I've lost it again. Anyway, okay, we'll come back to it if it comes back to my head.
Yeah.
So you work across multiple time zones, right? And you have to
Mm.
manage sort of very odd hours. So
Yeah.
I know many solopreneurs sort of struggle with setting boundaries. So how do you manage client expectations on the one hand while protecting your family time, which is clearly
Mm.
important to you?
Still, I'm still navigating that. That's actually probably
Yeah.
something that I've probably painted this picture that it's been amazing the first year. That's probably one big thing that I need to improve on. Because right now, literally this week, the roles that I'm servicing, I've got open roles in India and Singapore. So I'm in the UK, so my morning is kind of working with people, candidates over there. And then we kind of move across, and then my evening ends in San Francisco at night. I don't work a 15, 16-hour day, though.
Right.
There's time off in between. But you do what you need to do, basically. And, lots of my work is replying to messages and things like that. Outreach that I've done, people come back. You can do that for mobile. So I don't want to be out somewhere with my family and be on my phone. But if something important comes in, I'll step away and do that, because that's really important as well. But you need to have boundaries too. But I block time off when I'm picking kids up from school. I have in my diary an hour each day where it's just playtime. My laptop's off, my phone's not in my pocket, and I'm just in the moment with the kids. So it's scheduling all these things really. But the time zone thing, actually, it just suits me perfectly, because my kids go to bed at 7 p.m. and then they're in bed. I'm happy to do work in the evening, because I'd rather have time pre 7 p.m. for a few hours when I'm not working and can be with them, than in the evening when they're in bed and fast asleep. So it really suits.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And again, that's something you sort of have to figure out the balance as you go through it, right? I mean, we all struggle with that, but setting boundaries is important.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, you've also described yourself as a long-suffering Nottingham Forest fan, right? So, I mean, are there any lessons you've learned from Nottingham Forest or from the world of sports that you apply to your solo business?
Funny. Well, I'm not sure where most of your listeners are, probably in the US, but actually this is the year that Nottingham Forest fans stop suffering, because we're third in the Premier League.
Wow.
It has been a long journey, but finally we're doing pretty well. So I might have to edit. I think that's from my LinkedIn profile. I might have to edit that now. So finally, at the age of 42, I'm no longer suffering. So what's that taught me? Resilience, not to give up, and I don't know. But I think you mentioned about sport. Actually, I think fitness is super important. I'm like huge of that, and especially just for my kids. Especially in this age with phones and games and everything else. Like we're all guilty of it as parents, of throwing the TV on and passing them an iPad when you're out for dinner, because sometimes you need that, right? But I think one thing I think is important is to instill that kind of sporting characteristic, and like from an early age, because I think it does help, especially in some of the best salespeople that I recruit that normally had some kind of sporty background. You go back on their resume to when they were at college. Maybe they were like an athlete or something, or they just missed out on turning pro. And a lot of the best salespeople are sporty. But obviously, I think that's huge, actually, just in whatever you're doing, is to have that and just continue it through. And you don't have to be sporty, though. You can just need to exercise, right? And I think that's key, especially when you're sucked into a really tough business. I think you've got to get out and get fresh air and just get moving. So that's all I'd say there. But Nottingham Forest, I don't know. Yeah, I think resilience is probably the main thing.
Good to know. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. So you've also said that you're a proud father of two crazy boys, right? So and you touched on this a little bit, but I want to dig into it a little more. But how has fatherhood sort of influenced your approach to life now, generally?
I think everything you do is about them. I think that's no matter what it is, whether it's like, right, I need to make some money this month, right? I'm doing it for them, not me. before I get myself ready in the morning, I've got to get them sorted. Like everything, just they're first for everything. You don't do much for yourself anymore, and that's all right, because I chose to have kids. But it does change everything. Yeah, and you think about not just them now, but them in the future, and what am I doing now to help them be the best possible person they can be. So yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough having kids, but it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done, and it's the thing I'm most proud of as well. Regardless of any business achievements, seeing them is amazing. So yeah.
And it sounds like it goes two ways, right? Because I always, parents are always sort of like the relationship is sort of, you get a lot more than you give, right? A lot of the time. So
yeah, absolutely.
So now you might have already said this, but every solopreneur has like an oh shit moment, like early on, right? And so what was yours and how did you handle it? Was it the domain and the name change of the company? That's a pretty big deal, but is there anything else that was like?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in this industry is the margins of success. Okay, from you could be celebrating. There's a candidate who gets offered a job, and you could be $150,000 base salary, a 20% fee. So you got a $30,000 fee on the line, and the candidate gets offered the job, and they might say, "No, I've changed my mind. I'm going to stay where I am, or I've gone somewhere else." And that's always the I've done this for 10 years. So it's not new to me that. But when that first happened in this business, it hurt more than ever before, because that amount of money is obviously huge, especially with no overheads to pay for. It's pretty much pure profit. So I think that was I had that in month 3. I had an offer from a client get turned down, and yeah, despite building up that resilience over the last 10 years of doing this job, that one hurt a lot and was hard to get over. But all you can do is jump back on and keep going, right?
Yeah. There are a lot of things that are out of your control, right? Which you have to just sort of roll with the punches. And actually, that reminds me of the senior moment I had. What I was thinking of when you're talking about the website thing is, I always say that you need to have angels and truth tellers, right? Angels, I don't mean finance people who invest in your company, but people who are like supporters of you, blind supporters. But you also need the people who will be really honest with you and say, like somebody told you, that that's not a good name, right? You need that in this business. Otherwise we sort of spend so much time in our own head that it's hard. Like you said, you get your blinkers on, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Or your blinders on. Yeah.
I'll tell you who's good for that. Chat GPT is like the like you kind of your co-founder when you're in a one-person business, because you can ask them anything, and like I have that feed running all day, just bouncing ideas and what you think of this, and you get a warts and all answer from them every time.
Yeah, I call them my 3 assistants, right? Claude, Gemini, and GPT. So yeah, but you're right. That has supercharged my business and the ability for all of us. I think that's why solopreneurship, I think, is going to have a lot of legs in the future.
Yeah.
Definitely. So now you've also worked with high growth startups. What's one lesson you would take from the startup world that you think solopreneurs can apply to grow sustainably?
You've caught me on that one. I think it's funny actually, because I think the startup space has changed a lot recently. Because actually the word sustainability is key there. I think that's what all tech startups are trying to do now. Okay, it's getting more from less.
Yeah.
So going back maybe 5 years, or up to 5 years, like pre-COVID, I'd say. I remember that we had a few clients who were hiring that much. They would say, right, we need to hire 5 people, and we expect, after a year, 2 or 3 will still be with us, maybe even just 1 or whatever, and they didn't care. Like there was splashing VC money, and it was just throwing money a lot of the time down the drain, rather than just slowing down a little bit and actually going, well, actually, let's just be a bit more diligent in what we're doing and assessing what we need. and now what I'm seeing is, tech startups, it's getting more from less. It's being profitable. VCs are putting more pressure now on seeing growth and seeing profit. So I think, I think the message there is, don't get carried away. Like, obviously, be ambitious. Because these tech startups obviously are, they're the ones that are growing. But it's like you can do all that, but don't get too carried away, and don't try and go too fast. Basically, I think is probably the key thing.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. The blank check mentality now is like, I think it ruined a lot of founders. It sort of muddied their idea of how to build a company, right? It's like, we don't need a business plan. We don't need revenue. We don't need anybody buying anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And do you know what? Like, when that was going on, that was great. We were sending out invoices for all these candidates, but at the same time, it doesn't reflect well on you, because then it's like, well, if you're hiring all these people knowing they're not going to work out, then that doesn't make us look very good. So I'd rather slow down now. Let's get the right people on board. Do a thorough process, scorecard your interviews and use data, and then you'll make sure you get someone that joins you, stays with you, and is really successful. I think it's a far better way to do things.
So if you could go back to the corporate world or corporate life for 1 week, what's the one thing you'd change about the way they hire now that you've been on your own and you've sort of been on the other side, if you like?
I think so when it comes to interviewing people, I think too many companies just say, right, let's come in the room and have a chat, and it's just a flowing conversation without any real agenda, any particular questions they plan to ask, and especially when they meet other people on the team, it's like there's no system to it, basically. So I think it's systemizing your process. I've got a client right now who I'm working with, actually, who shared with me before her interview process, and it was just it was nailed on. They knew exactly what they're asking, who's asking what, why they're asking it, and that's how it should be done. So I think that's the big thing. And I think the other thing to hire better is nobody takes references. It's crazy.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, people need to take references more, and I see so many people miss that step, and it's such an important step. I think people often think at the end, well, they've given me the person's name, of course it'll be a good reference, and it probably will be, but there's questions you can ask to try and uncover that and learn more about that person, and ask for maybe reasons why I wouldn't hire that person,
right,
why I should. So lots of people aren't doing the due diligence. I see that all the time, and in some cases it comes back to bite people, but I'll always encourage that to happen.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so there is science to it too, right? It's not just about chemistry and like winging it, like maybe we did in the old days a little more.
Yeah.
And so you the other thing which was interesting to me, in you say that you have a fascination with risk reward investments like crypto, angel investing. So has this mindset actually influenced the way you run your business?
So, do you know, it's funny, actually. No, it hasn't. Yeah. Weirdly, they're like two opposites. So my business, I run extremely conservatively. My wife will hear about, we had a good month, and right, okay, what does that mean? And I'm like, nothing, doesn't mean anything. That's going into the pension fund. And no, that changes nothing. But so then, exactly. But I am fascinated by that. I do like the crypto space, and actually, the time of recording this, it is not a good week. So that's not doing too well. But I don't tell my wife about that. Keep that from her. But no, I treat it very differently. Actually, that's a bit of fun. And if it pays off, then great. But no, I think when it comes to business, you can take some risks, but not financial. For me, it's not financial risks. I think the one thing I learned, actually, going back to the business, we used to buy every bit of software that we thought looked interesting. We'd buy it, and we just got sold to really well. We're the best company to sell to, because we like to invest and build a tech stack out. And I think that's something I've learned, actually. Sometimes just slow down, don't get new shiny object syndrome, because that is actually where you end up throwing a lot of money away, and it's just being really sensible. Like, I don't even have a CRM system yet. Like, that's the number one tool you need in a recruitment business is a CRM system. So my business is 9 months old, and I still don't have one yet. I will get one very soon, but there's so many out there. There's so many new ones, and I thought I don't have time actually just yet to evaluate them all. I don't actually know what I need yet, so I thought let's just wait until next year. So this year I'll probably do that. And in the meantime, I'm fine. I'm organised. My data's all organised, ready to go into a CRM. But there's so many new ones. I just thought, no, let's not rush into it. And so I think, I'm very conservative with how I run this business.
Yeah, that's smart. And I'm similar to you. I sort of have those two sides to my personality. I love to gamble too, but I probably shouldn't say that on air. But, it's like, but I keep those sort of two sides in sort of two parts. Because you have to be sensible about how you do it. And you can have fun, but, not blindly. So one thing I'm sort of fascinated by, I have to ask you is this whole, I guess it's I don't know how, phenomena of ghosting. Have you come across that? I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, is that prevalent? Because I've heard horror stories of people accepting jobs and then not showing up on day one. Have you dealt? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That I guess ghosting as a thing is like happens, and it goes both ways. And I think the first side of it, there's a candidate right now, actually, won't name and shame, but there's somebody right now that I had a great call with last week. He was excited about the company. He straight after the call, he emailed me with his resume, and he was like, just super pumped up. I sent him the hiring manager's Calendly to book into it. Not heard anything since, and I followed up 2 or 3 times, and it's like, what's happened? Like, this is just weird. And even if something's changed from his side, it's like, well, I'll probably speak to you in the future at some point. So
right,
I don't understand it. And I think the other side of it actually is ghosting sometimes from recruiters happens as well. And not making an excuse, because I've never done it intentionally. But sometimes the volume is so huge. Like when I do a post on LinkedIn, my inbox just goes, just like I'll get 50 messages in a row. And things can go crazy, and you got all these different time zones and so much going on. Like right now I'm working about 12 different jobs, so I try to be on it, and I always try to make sure everyone's got an update, and I think I do a pretty good job of that. But there'll always be 1 or 2 people that slip through the net who start chasing me, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I get it. It happens, and maybe that's what's happened with this guy on the other side. He's just got so busy in his current job, so I need to be mindful of that as well.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I think there's honestly, in my mind, we've never lived in a time when it's easier to just send a quick note, right? I mean, we have so many different ways to do it. So, but I hear you. I mean, as long as you get around to it,
Yeah, we had a strange one a couple of weeks ago. Actually, we had a candidate, and this is a senior, data scientist. This is a role in Bangalore, actually, so it's in India. This guy's, really strong candidate. He's been around for 20 years. He's exceptional, and he was due to start on the Monday. He emailed the CEO on the Sunday to say, I've changed my mind. I don't want to work in a startup anymore. And it's like, well, you've been through this process, and the day before you start, you've decided to give us that information, and it's just, it's crazy. People never cease to amaze you sometimes.
Yeah, true. But at least he wrote, you know what I mean? Because I have a friend who's head of HR at a large global corporation, and she was telling me that like up to 30% of candidates do not show up on the day after signing the contract, and then they never hear from them again. And that just boggles my mind. I'm like, I don't know. But anyway,
I mean, that's a rarity for us. I think I've seen it twice in 10 years. But I think I can imagine when high volume corporates, that's
right.
Pretty much.
The numbers are probably bigger, right? It's just I don't think I'll ever understand that.
No.
So, if we were to meet again, say 3 to 5 years from now, Adam, where would you want to be? What would you want to have achieved in your business and maybe in life?
I think I'd love to be working half the time that I'm working now. I think that's the big win. It's getting the time back, but not sacrificing the revenue that I bring in So it's that would be the perfect thing.
Yeah.
So if I could, even better, if I could half the time and double the revenue, that would be the thing to try and achieve. And that I guess like that's what I need to try and work on. Is how can I do that? And that's where I think things like personal branding and driving more inbound. That then you can cut out prospecting. That's a big part of my week. I can cut out. So leveraging inbound, leveraging referrals better. These are the ways to do that. That's where I'd love to be in 5 years' time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And rooting for Nottingham Forest, right?
Yeah, hopefully we'll be winning the Premier League and the
Premier
Champions
League.
Yeah.
So is if you were to now, if I asked you to sort of give advice to somebody who wants to start their journey, right, what would you say to them?
I'm going to go the boring answer, which is just play it safe.
Yeah.
So my experience, it's don't let the passion and the emotion take over. Make sure financially you're ready to go. Whatever that looks like for me, it's if I didn't do a single sale, a single placement for a year, that's my buffer, which is far, very, very conservative. But it means I don't have to get stressed when I'm having a bad week, month, day, because I can just go, right, I'm fine, it's all right. So I think that's probably the first thing, and then just have a plan. I know you help people in all different industries, right? So, but whatever that is that you do, it's have a plan, and know. Hopefully, people who are jumping into something will know what they're doing, right? You can't just start a recruitment business having not worked in recruitment. You can do, but you'll find it very, very tough. So it's get your experience first in a company, and go solo when the timing's right, and you'll be successful. I think that's the key thing.
Yeah, I would counter to say that's not the boring answer. That's the smart answer, Adam.
Yeah,
because it's not courageous to jump blindly. It's just dumb.
No. But you know what? I'll say, Nikhil, on the flip side of that, I heard a comment or a quote the other day, and I thought it was really true, especially when you work in the tech industry, because I see layoffs, I see people who've got amazing profiles who are finding it hard to get work. And actually, while there's a risk jumping into running your own business, in some regards, you're safer than being employed.
Yeah.
Which that was always the thing, was always a big risk going self-employed and working for yourself. Well, actually, in a lot of cases, you're too small to fail. I'm not sure if you read the book, A Company of One.
No.
Great book, and talk about that. It's about being you're too small to fail. It's true.
Yeah.
Again, if I don't make any sales for a few months, it's fine because my costs are very low. Nobody can sack me. So I think that's something to remember as well.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree, but you still can do it smartly, right? You can work a few years, sort of build a bit of a network, have a reputation, get experience. I always say, learn on somebody else's dime, right? Yeah. And then you can go off and do your own thing. So you have a lot of time. But no, you're right. So is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that we haven't covered?
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered a lot. I think, anyone that's thinking about jumping into, solopreneurship, then it's considering all these things. It's playing it safe, but equally, don't sit on the fence for too long. Just go for it. You'll probably be really successful. And enjoy it. Yeah,
there's no right time, right? You just have to take the leap once you make up your mind. So, so that brings us to a rapid fire round. So I'm just going to throw a couple of questions at you and tell me what comes to mind. So if you could instantly master one new language for business, which would it be?
One new language?
Yeah.
Probably Spanish.
Okay.
Well, Spanish and Portuguese. And that's only because recently I made the first time I really worked in LATAM on a hire, and I really enjoyed it. And and they were great people, and I thought, I'd love to have clicked on a more personal level with those guys and made more of an effort. So I think that would be the one region in particular I'd love to be able to,
If you try Duolingo, let me know how it goes.
Okay, I will do.
So if your recruiting style was a sports strategy, what would it be?
I'd say all out attack basically. It's all out attack. So you know, it's a bit of an old school word, but I'm a headhunter. I'm a
Yeah.
recruiter, I'm a headhunter, and that's what you need to be. You need to be hunting, and that's where I can really help a lot of my clients, especially if they're just relying on applications coming through, or they have an internal person sending out a few messages here and there. You've got to be forthright. You've got to pick up the phone. You've got to have follow up. So yeah, all out attack.
Yeah, that sounds good. What's one piece of career advice that you ignore?
Do you know what I'd say now? It's not so much I would ignore it, but I'm very passionate that I think, certainly in the UK, I don't know too much about elsewhere globally, but in the UK, I just think universities, degrees, it's a waste. It's a waste of time, but it's not. You don't have to go that route. I think I always was told, if you were slightly academic, go to university. That's the path you go. Then you get loads of debt and everything else. And actually, I did that. I had a great time. But I don't think it's. I don't see the value anymore, especially when I'm even reviewing candidates. Of course, you want to be a doctor. If you want to, do that, then sure. But especially if you're going to be working sales, for example, there's probably better skills you can learn elsewhere.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And you're right. I mean, if you're going to be a doctor, an engineer, don't learn on YouTube. But for everything else, you really don't need that. In fact, on Tuesday, I interviewed a young man who's 19 and just started his business from his dorm room. And one of the things he told me is that we don't learn these skills in college. And these are critical skills, how to build a business, run a business, think about it, right? Entrepreneurial skills. So what would you say is the biggest misconception people have about recruiting?
I think it's that especially agency recruiters like myself, that it's all about the money. I know I've mentioned that a couple of times in this podcast, but that's because it's about my business. But actually, it is. We do enjoy helping people, right? It's not about chasing a commission check. My sports team, Nottingham Forest, my soccer team, I'd love to help. Do you know what? I'd love to stop recruiting for tech startups and just I don't know, be like a full-time scout for them, send me around the world, looking at players in Brazil and reporting back to them. That'd be a good one.
You definitely have a thing for Latin America now, right?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, exactly.
You find some amazing players in Brazil, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, that's a fun note to end on. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your journey, your story, and all your insights. I've had a great time, and I'm sure our listeners will too.
Thanks, Nikhil. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Adam's journey offers a masterclass in solo business building. Start with financial preparation, clarify what success really means to you, focus on genuine connections over flashy metrics, and recognize that your small size might be your greatest asset. Here are my key takeaways from our conversation. Don't leap blind, build a runway. Adam didn't romanticize solopreneurship. He built a 12-month runway before going solo, giving himself room to build without panic and his family the stability they needed. Remember, courage isn't jumping without a parachute. A financial runway isn't just security, it's strategic freedom. When you're not scrambling for cash, you make decisions from a position of confidence, not desperation. You're too small to fail. One of Adam's sharpest insights. Solopreneurs may have more security than traditional employees, fewer costs, full control, and no one to fire you. Remember, true security isn't about size. It's about adaptability, ownership, and staying lean. Flexibility wins in competitive markets. Adam didn't box himself into one business model. He flexes his offer to fit the moment, from embedded consulting to lightweight outsourcing support. You don't need 10 products. You need a strong offer that is versatile. Stay anchored in your expertise, but stay open in your execution. Post even when nobody's clapping. Adam admitted he wasn't a natural at putting himself out there. But once he started sharing consistently, even posts with 3 likes led to real clients. The magic didn't happen in public, it happened in the inbox. Virality is vanity, visibility is value. Post for impact, not applause. Thank you for listening to Unfiltered Solopreneur. If you got value from today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another solopreneur who needs this message. Until next time, Keep breaking free from the corporate grind. And remember, your story is your most powerful asset. Live solo or die corporate.